I'd like to call the 276th meeting of
Sound
the
seems
Public
low.
Practice Commission to order. I think the Commissioner Yearwood said the volume is low. While we're working on that, Executive Director G. Victor, can you please call the roll of commissioners?
Yes. Chair and Commissioner Aldrin Padilla,
Present.
Vice Chair and Commissioner Elaine Reese,
Here.
Commissioner Menasca Alcantara,
Here.
Commissioner Nicole Yearwood,
Yeah.
and Commissioner Ngozi Okara.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes.
I vote to approve the minute.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Reese. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Alcantara. Any discussion? In terms of the minutes, I just, in the final point, when we vote to exit a public section, it should be clear that we vote to exit public session with the intent to, the purpose to go into executive session. And not just voting to adjourn. So we're not adjourning, we're just voting to exit public session to go into executive session. And not until we adjourn from executive session, technically in the public session, then is when the meeting is adjourned. All right. So, that's a friendly amendment. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstentions, the motion carries. Next order of business, we have the approval of the audit resolution, 2024 final determination resolutions for 3 agencies. For that, do I turn to the executive director or do I turn to the EO analyst audit unit manager? Okay.
So for 2024 final determination resolution, we have resolution number 2024 AP/276-101 paren 2024, Office of the Public Advocate. Resolution number 2024 AP/276-943 paren 2024, Office of the Kings County Public Administrator. Resolution number 2024 AP/276-521 paren 2024, Board of Education Retirement System.
I move that we approve all of those.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Reese to handle and approve the resolutions. We have a second. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Okaru seconded. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of determination resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is passed. Next, we have the 2024 compliance resolution. Manila, can you read it?
All right, so we have resolution number 2024 AP/276-468 paren 2024, 217 Post Oaks Community College, and resolution number 2024 AP/276-868 2024 C22 Department of Citywide Administrative Services.
I move they be approved.
We have Commissioner Reese makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second, Commissioner Alcantara. Any discussion? So for both of these, there is corrective action, right?
So there was corrective actions, but now for the compliance, they're fully completed.
So they met whatever was outstanding of each of them.
Yes, and those were the ones that were in the compliance monitoring period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So, carry on.
Mhm.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we have subsection C, 2024 final determination and compliance resolutions. Manila, can you read it into the record, please?
So we have resolution number 2024 AP/276-008 paren 2024 C18, New York City Office of the Actuary, and resolution number 2024 AP/276-469 paren 2024 C19, LaGuardia Community College, Resolution number 2024 AP/276-032-2024 C20, Department of Investigation, and resolution number 2024 AP/276-134-2024 C21, New York City Civil Service Commission.
I move that
Thank
they
you.
all be approved.
We have Commissioner Reese makes a motion to approve the 4 resolutions as a bundle. Do we have a second? Second. Commissioner O'Carroll seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I wanna understand, what is the difference between the final determination and compliance resolution? These are the people that completed the 30-day period of compliance and then are going into final?
So with the compliance resolutions, those were the agencies that after the final determination, they went into compliance monitoring and then received their determination on compliance.
Yeah.
And this last section C, this is for the agencies that within from the last meeting to now, their final determination was issued and also their compliance
They were in
resolution. So they were in compliance within that time frame. So, and in most of the instances, they had.
So they were in
Yeah.
compliance,
She can.
and then they completed the compliance period and were issued a compliance.
So they
corrective
corrective actions at
corrective
the final
actions.
determination.
To go
They
into.
were all good.
So why they were not with the final determination?
Well, previously it was asked that when agencies have both their final determination resolution and their compliance resolution to be signed and voted on, to include them in a separate section to kind of highlight that they were
And
able
they
to
did have the
complete, yeah.
compliance and, okay.
At the final determination stage, they were in compliance at that stage.
So, but they had compliance issues to complete, and then they completed them, and then now we're in final.
Yeah, so after the
Got it.
preliminary, yeah, they completed it.
Perfect.
So at the final, they were.
Thank you.
There's no category of agencies that were in compliance outright.
So
That would be the sequence.
Yeah.
Okay.
they were
Okay.
involved.
The same question I ask all the time, what number are we through at this point? How many have we completed?
So we have 22 compliance resolutions for the year.
22, and we need to have 36.
Yes,
And then there's a separate agenda item.
I was, well,
Are you putting that out?
I was gonna bring it up, yeah, later,
Okay.
but
Yeah, but we could still.
Yeah.
Reiterate that at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
All in favor of the 2024 final determination and compliance resolution, say aye.
I,
All opposed? Abstentions, hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we have section 4, old business, the status of the EEPC personnel, and for that, I turn to Executive Director Jean Livingston.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the status of EEPC personnel that we talked about at the last meeting. We have the 2 city research scientists that we have scheduled interviews for, or at least are those interviews will be coming up this month of November. We have the 1 part-time executive agency counsel that I've reviewed resumes, and we'll be setting up interviews early in the month of November as well. And we have the EEO program analyst that would be assigned to the audit unit. We have resumes received, but they have yet to be reviewed. And it would be the same thing for the administrator of audits and executive services. That's the position that sits by the door. And we have resumes, but they have yet to be reviewed.
just out of, have you received an adequate quantity of resumes or so
Yes.
you've got more than enough to look through?
Yes, especially for these last 2 positions that I talked about. That's part of the difficulty in getting them out to us because they'll have to be reviewed. And we have many resumes.
Any other question? Some of this is a different calendar or timeline, right? It's unavoidable in terms of people out and vacation, different things. But as you know, and I expressed to you prior, it's so important, and the utmost importance, right? It's like mission critical that we get these positions. And we do our due diligence and, interview appropriately and get folks before us, but then also really try to make these offers and get these.
And then it takes a while before they actually appear
Yeah,
because of the bureaucracy involved.
yeah. So I know I'm stating the obvious, but really pleased with the double time of this particular thing, filling these positions. Next order of business, we have subsection 4, topic B, hot topics for the next audit cycle. That would be Executive Director G.
Yeah, thank you. I put this on the agenda because I wanted to continue the conversation that we had at the last meeting. At the last meeting, we talked about occupational segregation as a possibility for a hot topic. We also talked about pay disparities. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that in the realm of pay equity and pay disparities, that City Council had prepared a report back in September of 2022 on pay equity. And also in your packet, I included local law 27, and I put highlights on the local law itself, because DCAS is charged with conducting a pay equity study. Section
An analysis.
right, and they are
Yeah,
charged
paid
with
for.
hiring a consultant
Yeah.
to conduct the pay equity analysis. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that these initiatives were ongoing.
Well, let's do segregation. Which leads to the distortion in pay anyway.
So
So if I'm a secretary and I can't get promoted beyond it.
in terms of the next audit cycle topics, right? For the purposes of a public session as this, I would be curious from the commissioners and the executive team here, not on what the next topic should be, but like what should be our process and who should we involve in determining what the next topic or theme should be. Does that make sense? So, any ideas of how we can structure like a process by which we can really leverage whatever talents, expertise, opinion internally from commissioners and executive staff, but also if we can, if need be, reach out to consultants or experts to help us really hone in what this next cycle audit topic should be. Yes, Commissioner Yearwood.
Is it possible we could do something like a survey? Send out a survey?
And who would be the recipients of the survey? What would be?
I mean, you mentioned like staff internally and the consultants, and us, I guess.
Yeah, okay. For my own, yes.
Seems to me that if we wanted to, how about the EOC officers throughout the city? If they have a sense of what would be most helpful to them in terms of their job. And doesn't everybody within the city have a hiring officer?
Yes, every agency.
Wouldn't the agency hiring officers also have an interest in what we determine? And I'm just looking at segregation, but wouldn't that be helpful to them? They understood where it was elsewhere. Whether what they're doing.
What they're seeing is problematic.
Yes,
I can tell you that in conversations I've had with DCAS, they're saying that the actual investigation is a little problematic right now, but particularly reasonable accommodations, they're having a hard time with.
really.
Yes,
Why?
because EEO officers may not fully understand what to do or may not have their processes fully in place.
Or they have not had their superiors understanding what they need to do and being turned away.
Or they haven't been trained.
What about looking into
Nicole has something she wants to say.
Oh,
Well, Commissioner Alcantara is recognized by the chair and then Commissioner Yearwood.
Thank you.
in their On the utilization reports, there were some items that were highlighted that need to be further explored. Can we look into those? I remember retention within the city workforce was one of those that was highlighted as, not so much retention, but promotion. Were highlighted. Could we look into that?
Yes, and I just want to make it clear, we're not talking about the study part. We're talking about what standards we're looking at within the agencies to make sure that they're doing their proper role as EEO officers.
But even so, I mean,
Yes.
promotions fits in with looking at placement.
Yeah.
They're both, they're flip side of the same thing.
Yeah.
Commissioner Yearwood?
Yeah, I was wondering if we're looking for the topics that we want to cover, is asking current EEO officers, like asking the people we're going to audit to shape the audit.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if I mean, I don't know, but I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me, asking the people we're going to audit to shape the audit.
That's a fair point. Commissioner Reese?
Yeah, but what we're trying to find is things that will be helpful to them. And I understand, Nicole, where you're coming from, but it seems to me we're also trying to figure out where what we do at the end, because we have a report 4 years later of what we have found and what would be helpful to them in doing their job. It's the flip side of the same thing. You're asking the people to audit, maybe they'll say they don't want to be audited at all. But the real issue is, would it be helpful to him to have facts about not only their agency, but how other agencies are functioning, doing promotions, or how they're functioning with segregation of title segregation and what that means in terms of pay disparity. Anyway, it's I hear you, but it seems to me that the other part of it is we want to be useful.
I mean, yes, but I think that might be on a separate track from the.
Well, I don't know. If I don't know what they think would be useful, I don't know how to be useful to them.
I think this is what has, maybe Commissioner Reese might know some of this, and it's not the decade director, maybe Russell. What's been the history of the EEPC leveraging outside expertise and talent and consultants? And if there has been no history, what, in your opinion, is the value of doing such a thing in times like when we need guidance and a pulse on what the state of the standards are elsewhere? That could be informative to us.
I do not believe there's been a history at the EEPC of going to consultants for advice, particularly for developing the theme of the audit. I think that like the audit cycle prior to the current one was sexual harassment. They spent 4 years on that, and then prior to that, it was another employment practices audit. So there are we're looking at different aspects of the program over time in terms of audit. However, I do believe that there is a place for consultants to help on the research side, because I think that on the research side, we may need that expertise to make sure that we're going in the right direction.
Commissioner Reese?
For as long as I've been on the commission, which is fortunately a very long time, there's not been use of a consultant in the development of the audits. I'm not sure how many consultants would understand the nature of our bureaucracy, which I think is part of that. I mean, I don't know that other than coming with a top line topic, which we could do, they would provide any added value. I teased before when you finally go through the process of interviewing and giving an offer to someone, the bureaucracy within the city, how long did you wait outside? 6 months?
A while. I forgot that on purpose.
Not for reasons. So there are a whole lot of variables here, including the civil service process itself and how you have to hiring off a list with tests that I'm not sure that it would have to be a consultant almost that comes out of the city to be able to give us value.
Well, I mean, we don't, I recognize Commissioner Yu and Commissioner O'Connell. I'd just like to point that, I disagree. I mean, I think that occupational segregation, I dare say, is not unique to New York City. Segregation at writ large is not a unique experience just to New York. I think the United States, or regions of the US have been plagued, and the other side of it have been focused and dedicated to moving the needle for a more integrated workforce that's not segregated occupationally. Even just the literature itself on occupational segregation, oddly enough, the segregation itself is not necessarily a bad thing. What becomes bad is when it's associated with pay disparity and wealth inequity. So I think there's a lot of scholars, a lot of policymakers, a lot of folks who may be able to offer insights to us of how to convert. And I'd be curious on our research team too, in terms of how to convert some of the research findings, right? In terms of what kind of audit, wordings or things that we care about. One example is when we audit in terms of, do people have an EEO complaint log? And we had a really robust discussion, I think, here among commissioners that while knowing whether an agency EEO officer has a complaint log is good, right, that they have one, right? But it's such a de minimis standard in that when you get to the lived experience is people really want to know how long of a period of duration it takes between filing a complaint and having one reviewed and resolved. And that maybe our eyes should be toward that duration, just not whether or not they have a lot, right? That's where we can make real value add in terms of moving the needle on that. So I'm just pushing that. What's the analogy of that for another topic that we might be concerned about, like occupational segregation? I don't know that. And if people here do know, like how to fine tune questions, inquiries around that, right? Then this is our time to contribute, and to the extent not, then it's our time to really figure out what process we would set in place to kind of get those answers from experts or from other folks. That may already be in your, and I'm dating myself now, but may already be in your Rolodex, right? People that have been dealing with these issues or research that has been influential to your own understanding of this. Commissioner, I think I said you first, and then Commissioner Okawa.
Whichever.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the budget for this because I know that we have some financial constraints. So I was wondering if we even had the funds to hire an external consultant. That's one. And the second thing is that can we look at some past audits? And I think that Menelik worked on this and see what the themes are in terms of going back to Commissioner Reese's point of figuring out where agencies most would need our support is seeing where we seeing the most deficiencies. So like, is there a common theme where some agencies are deficient, let's say in, even having someone do EEO? And then maybe we know from that we need to talk to agencies about the importance of having an EEO officer. You know what I'm saying? So we can assess the needs based on the deficiencies we've seen in past audits and any kind of trends. We could glean some trends from that data.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
That's right.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner.
That's okay. That's okay. So I really appreciate the idea of a consultant in terms of how much would it cost. I mean, I don't know what your budget, what the ability is to modify the budget, but you've had some empty staff lines, so the money.
We recently had a big increase.
Right, and so the money, I feel like the money could potentially come from there. I think that this is such a serious issue that we should probably at least thoroughly consider outside. I mean, in terms of board, I don't see where there's any board capacity to do this, and I don't think that the staff has capacity either, considering we've had shortages, right? So to the extent that we could get professional support, which I, my own organization have done, have had like external consultants help us on exactly these matters. I think it's the best course of action. At least they will be able to look at it with clear eyes and to see things in a way that we cannot see because we've been enmeshed in this for a while. We don't have necessarily solutions.
Commissioner Alcantara?
That I agree. One of the things that I feel is we create reports that highlight issues that we encounter within agencies. And we also have, like Commissioner said, reports that highlights those issues. So if we don't have the money, that should be an easy place to go to and say, these are, most everyone is having issues with this, the reports highlight this is where we pick the thing. Or when it's not clear cut, then maybe if we have money, the consultants. But I don't know if for you, Jean, looking at past data and past reports will give you an idea of the things that you want to highlight.
Commissioner Reese?
I too am supportive of a consultant, but to do something else, to actually develop the questionnaire. It's more than just, and I think that's the piece that the chair was talking to, and that's the insight into how you get the next questions. It's not enough that you have a complaint data, but how long does it take to resolve the complaint? It's looking at some of our past questionnaires, even the one on sexual harassment, and refining that so that we have perhaps a better, if you will, a better standard as we go forward in how we should be delving into some of these issues and getting more detail in a response. And maybe looking at our standards and seeing whether or not there's some way that those standards themselves should be added to or dealt with. I don't think sending out a questionnaire which has the problem of who responds and how many responses we get is as efficient as finding someone who really is a consultant. And the questionnaire itself would cost you money. It may not cost you actual funds that you expand, but it's going to cost you time and effort in culling it and developing it and going forward and looking at it. And I'm not sure that as we talk about different means of developing a better questionnaire and different means of finding the right issues to look at over the next 4 years, whether a questionnaire will be as efficient as finding the right consultant or consultants, more than one, to look at what we have done in the past and how to refine that and make it more efficient going forward and giving us more information. I think, having said that our topic probably doesn't really change. I mean, I think we know that there is occupational segregation, and I think we know, even as DCAS is looking at, it's going to lead to pay equity issues. I mean, if within the fire department, they have reached the ability to have an equal number of women, but they are working at the emergency EMS and they are not fire persons, we know they are earning less than the fire people are. And we know that over time they will have less retirement money, which the chair has pointed out to, and less equity over time. There's no, and that's our knowledge. So how do you change that? And how do you alter that? Is there some meaningful way of our delving into their hiring practices to understand what's happening? Are their hiring practices, although they appear on their face not to be discriminatory, are they really discriminatory?
What's our runway timeline by which the next audit instrument should be ready?
Probably this time next year.
Okay, so we have a little bit.
We have plenty of time.
Okay. There's something, all right.
Do you have money within your budget?
Probably not. Without looking, I don't want to say definitively, but
I think we should have OTPs. Dedicated.
but we'll check. We'll check. But I think as a first step, what I was hearing is maybe we need to go back to the corrective actions and look at where there have been problems in the past and look at the prior audits that we've conducted.
But we should definitely, next meeting for executive session, give a presentation to the commissioners and budget details in terms of the increase and how much dedicated to PS, to OTPS, and if there's been any cost savings by the in terms of the vacancies that are not filled as of yet, and what does that mean in the modification of the budget? Next week, any other further discussion on this? Next, we go to the status of the EO Officers Handbook.
Yes.
Section C, we have Executive Director Jean Victor working.
Yes, I just wanted to give you a status update. I've been working on the EEO Officers Handbook. I wanted to advise you that I believe that by the next meeting, a draft for you guys to.
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful. Wow. Great. Next, we have old business subsection D, compliance certificate.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you a bit about the compliance certificate. We had a lot of conversation around the old compliance certificate. We talked about what the new one would look like. And I just wanted to share with you that we prepared a new one.
That's beautiful.
All right, that's good.
Yay.
And we also purchased folios so that we'll be mailing them out in their folio, which is an EEPC.
Gorgeous.
Okay, okay.
And I just need to give credit where credit is due. SWAT spent a lot of time working on certificate, and Mike Pinckney also spent a lot of time. So between the two of them, we got to this point. I love to see it.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
The seal really gives it.
Very nice.
But it's the official seal that Mike worked with DCAS, right?
No, he had to work with the city clerk's.
With city clerk's office,
Oh.
even better. Not that they're better than DCAS, but the official. seal.
More official.
Yeah. Next, we have section 5, new business agencies to add to next year's audit.
Yes, also in your packet, I've included 2 letters for 2 different agencies. One is the Mayor's Office of Contract Services, and the other one is the Special Investigator at the Board of Ed. Before Jen left, she had worked on a research project of looking at these 2 agencies on the Special Commissioner of Investigation for the New York City School District. And it was her opinion that they should be included. For the brief time that we had a part-time executive agency counsel, that was the one assignment that I'd given to her that she was able to complete before she left. And she looked at the both of these agencies and felt that Jen was correct and that they should be included. So I'd like to give notice to these agencies that they will be audited next year in 2025, which is our last year of the cycle of this audit.
They have never been audited before.
No,
They're new anyway.
Surprised Mark hasn't been, they've been around well over 2 decades, right?
I don't know how long they've been around, but the question was whether or not they were part of the mayor's office and being counted in the mayor's office's numbers, but they are not. So, yeah.
The Mayor's Office of Contract Services has been in the press of late.
And the Mayor's Office of Contract Services is probably a small agency, not tiny but small, not medium or large or extra large. And then the Special Commission of Investigation for New York City School District, I'm not even that familiar with them, so I'm not sure if they're a tiny agency or small agency.
I would say they were probably on this side of small. They're not going to be large.
Next, we have any other discussion on this?
Before the meeting began, I suggested that the executive director to look into whether or not the new created racial commission was also, whether it was part of the mayor's office or whether that was freestanding. And if it was freestanding, we ought to add it into our audit schedule.
Everybody heard that?
Yes.
Next, we have the board meetings 2025 calendar dates. Wow, we're there already, huh? 2025 calendar dates. You all should have a handout with the calendar dates. Of which
Thank you for
we-
considering my report.
Of course.
And the yellow is what is being recommended for our board. And this complies with the distance of 8 weeks between meetings or less, right?
Yes.
So that means for next year, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, this is just until, but this is the whole year, right?
This is the entire year,
And we only have
We
7.
missed
Yes.
February, we missed January and March.
because we have one in
In May.
December. We have one at the end
Yeah.
of December.
So, seems like really, that'll be less than we did in 2024.
No, we have 7
No,
now.
we
Yeah,
have seven.
We have 7.
Okay,
We have 7 and we thought that 7 was sparse.
yeah,
So we had the same conversation.
That's right. a year ago.
Yeah,
yeah.
You felt that it was sparse,
yeah,
that it should be more?
yeah.
I can understand August none and maybe even January none, given that we have one, I believe, in December. But if people,
We meet in December.
yeah, we meet in December of 2024. That's why January. But if people are not opposed, I would like to add I would like to ask the executive director if they can find the dates for March. Particularly since it's in the lead up to the budgets and the hearings and all that.
Mhm.
I think we should definitely have our eye on the ball during that budget cycle as well.
Is it,
So if there's no objections, I'd like to ask them to see if a date if March can be accommodated as well.
It looks like we could do March 13th.
I was gonna say, could there be May and June and not July? Because July and August are vacation months.
So you rather
Meeting May,
Or October.
there's no
Chair, I was just wondering
You
if
have
there's any
June.
date that people cannot make, so I can cross it off and not consider it.
yeah, but from June, we could not skip the 30 because it's 8 weeks, right? So we would
8
have to
weeks
meet
max.
8 weeks max. We would have to meet earlier in June. I mean, later in June.
so if we meet in
Oh.
May,
We meet in May. Yeah, we would have to meet in May. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say if it's May 29th. No, that's Thursday before I think Memorial Weekend, right?
That
Might
would,
not be good.
The 26th is the holiday. The holiday's in red.
Okay. So let's say
okay,
if it's the 29th,
I understand.
then that puts us to June 26th maybe, and then that allow us to be July and August off. We would have to meet September 4th instead of the 25th. Actually, it throw that adjustment, which I think
Will
might be,
throw-
will throw a lot of stuff off.
Yeah, I know.
But I do understand July and August being big vacation months. Would you like them to come back to us with a calendar that accommodates?
Yeah.
Can you guys figure out a time where it accommodates July?
I
and
already
August?
know February 13th doesn't work and April 10th is, I mean, I'm usually traveling. My birthday's the 11th and I'm usually like traveling around that time.
February 11th?
so we
No,
move it up to
April 10th.
February 6th. February 6th, okay?
No, the
So she
6th
talking about April.
actually, No, I'm talking about February 13th is usually tricky, that second Thursday. And then the April 10th is the day before my birthday when I know I'm usually traveling. The the 6th, I'm gonna be at a work offsite. Um, so I know I'm not gonna be here the 6th.
The 6th of what month?
February,
6th of February, 6th of
Oh, okay.
February.
we could do the
But
27th.
okay, that works.
And we would
So
have to
wait,
meet-
we're doing January. Wait a minute. When do we meet in
Not January,
December?
we're adding March. We're not doing January.
we would.
We're gonna
Okay,
have-
but we would have to because of the 8 weeks. That's what
Yeah.
I'm.
Oh,
Wait, what? Okay, when we meet December, was it 17th?
Does it have to be a Thursday? We can change for 1 month the meeting to a different day.
I could probably do I could do Wednesday the 12th, February 12th.
That's fine. What is the triangle?
Let's try and.
Floating holiday.
Oh, was triangle?
That's okay. We're all working with it.
Oh,
Okay, so do it the
what's
12th.
the
and
holiday?
what holiday
Well,
is
what's
it?
the- Oh, Lincoln. Is that
Lincoln's
Lincoln's
birthday.
birthday?
Oh,
Ah,
How I thought nobody got Lincoln. You know what? A few people do get Lincoln's birthday.
it's a
still.
floating
It's
holiday.
grandfathered in for some people.
Yeah, I could do the 12th.
But we did February 12th,
Yep.
and then we did one in March.
Mhm.
For the end of March.
So it'd have to be the 27th.
27th,
27.
then April would be 24. May, you leave the 29th. June, you did it the 26th. That would allow.
We
So
have
June
to meet at the
26th?
end of August. We have to meet at the end of August.
Yeah, makes it even worse.
yeah,
All right. So let's space.
Can AI
So
figure
if
this
we
out
meet
for us?
April.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, let's give it to
AI
AI
would be
outside of
better
the
than us.
meeting.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not.
You've got a meeting every month now, so you
Yeah,
got February, March, April,
Right.
May.
Well, yeah, but
June.
that doesn't help because it
Right.
doesn't.
What about if they come to us and then we,
I mean, so there's no way to have June and July completely off.
yeah,
So it would be a
Right.
situation where we might just have 3 commissioners. And I think it would be easier to get the 3 commissioners. Is it safe to, when would it be easier to get the 3 commissioners? In July or in August? When do commissioners do most of their traveling?
I travel more
I
in
can-
August than in July.
July's
I
better.
can-
July's better? Okay.
Yeah, August is
Yeah,
a
for
dead
me,
one.
I can do
We're
July.
all
Yeah.
French in August.
Yeah, so if you could figure out like the week of, let's say, the 7th of July?
But you have a meeting June 26th.
No, we don't, I'm saying work with the reverse engineer from
From July
from
7th.
July 7th, work backwards, and then work forward. And I think that'll be able to then have most of July, August off, and then we can accommodate that request.
Okay,
All right?
okay.
Yeah, because we could take a meeting out.
Righty? And next we have the potential agenda for December board meeting. Executive Director Jean Victor.
Yeah, so we have our final board meeting on December 17th, which is a Tuesday, not a Thursday. And the thinking was to possibly shorten that meeting so that I've extended an invitation for Commissioner Molina to come and meet with you as a more of a meet and greet, not as a meeting agenda item. So if the commissioner is available on that date, they haven't gotten back to me, I'd want to know if you wanted the meeting to end at around 11:30, so I can invite him at 11:30, and then
We could have
Why wouldn't,
a holiday at about 12:30.
why would our meeting be a meet and greet and not a substantive meeting with an agenda?
we can do that as well. Did
I
not,
think we have a lot to talk to DCAS about, right? Well, it would be.
then we have to give them an agenda. Yes.
Um,
What about coordination on pay equity?
Okay.
I mean, that clearly is one of our issues as well. They clearly have a obligation to look into it. And maybe we discuss coordination. But how we can help them, how they can help us.
will you have, Russell, agenda items for DCAT?
That would be a big one. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who would be coming with him, but another one would be,
It would be Sylvia.
oh, Sylvia. So they're supposed to be working on updating the availability estimates next year. So talking, and we've already had conversations about coordinating with them with that, but just to further that conversation would be another one.
What about their aging data?
Well, no, that's it. So, they've been working on updating the platform, the actual system, and it sounds like that will be happening, being finalized in the near future. And then afterwards, data gets updated once the platform and the infrastructure is working. So it sounds like that is proceeding, and we've had conversations with them to be involved, but it would be good to further that here.
And this is really a question that I have to understand the reason for the cycle. So every 10 years, there is a United States census that's done.
Mhm.
I assume that is the base of the knowledge of the data of where we are as a society, what our job titles are, how many, whatever. I mean, isn't that where it all starts
Well,
from?
So Nicole's a census expert, sorry.
It's the American Community Survey where we get the employment data, the occupational information. The decennial census doesn't do that. It's
Yeah.
the surveys in between.
And that's
Russell, do you
done,
know the years? I don't have it off the top of my head, but those are
it's
done.
roughly done about every 3 years or so. I want to say the most recent one was like 2021, 2022. I don't know offhand, but that's done about every 3 or 4 years approximately. So that's what we get. Or that's what is used. The reasons why it have not been updated, I'm not privy to all the details, but long story short, a platform existed that the people who knew how to use it
Right.
retired and did not properly train the new people on how to do it. Broadly speaking, that's about what happened.
So they now created another platform.
Basically, yes, they're in the process of doing that.
Okay.
And then perhaps as well, maybe some conversation about what they see are the problems that might help inform us as to what the focus of our next audit should be.
That's a good idea.
Right there. Right, so we got an agenda item. Another question, and maybe when we have, hopefully, I don't know, by then we'll have the part-time legal counsel, but the extent to which this meets the threshold for an executive session meeting rather than a regular session meeting, but we can ask that, figure that out. The attorneys we currently have on board as commissioners. Next, we have the section 6 audit update, 2024 audit plan status update. That we recommend.
So in the part we all have, it just shows the overview of the current audits, and then section 3, which you all voted on the resolutions. There are various highlights representing that. So those ones that only had final determination at this meeting are in yellow. The agencies highlighted in green are the ones that only received a compliance resolution at this meeting. And the ones highlighted in blue are the ones that had their final determination and compliance resolution at this meeting. And then a more general update, as briefly mentioned earlier, we're up to 22 compliance resolutions for this year, and we'll work our best to try to get as close to or to get to 36 as possible.
I forget, did we make 36 last year?
So last year we exceeded it, because we had some, spillover from last year, but we were at 61 last year.
Yeah.
It's 61.
So we exceeded it by a lot, and that's because the year before we had COVID and we had.
Yes, exactly.
Quick question. The ones that are listed for empty, are those the ones that are left to do?
Yes,
Okay. And they are in the process.
yes.
Okay.
We have working drafts for
Okay.
all of,
But
Any other questions on this agenda item? Next, we have research update, section 7, subsection A, the pilot project. Director Russell Ferry.
So in terms of the report, the data has all been collected. We have a month. And
how did I was able to see the presentation for like an hour and 15 minutes, and they were still going strong. So
does anybody remember? I feel like it lasted almost about 3 hours approximately.
What?
2.5.
I was
That much?
for an hour.
We were there for a while. We were there for a long time. Yeah, no, and they
an
were,
hour and a half, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, they were engaged until the end. So they definitely seem to appreciate what we did. I think there's definitely some things we told them that confirmed assumptions they already had, and some things we were telling them that were like, oh, that. I definitely think in theory they're open to some of the recommendations that we already made at that presentation, and that will then come in the report. As to how effectively they'll be able to implement them, it's hard to say. Obviously we haven't done this study or this type of project with another agency. My guess is they're doing a lot more already than most agencies are. So to be perfectly frank, I don't know how much more honestly there is for them, because they're already doing a lot. But I think what is valuable to them is we were able to get them a sense of their retention is really good. They keep staff at a pretty good clip compared to others. And I think we're kind of able to tell them why, and maybe even how they can improve upon that further, both for staff in general, but also people of color in particular, and women. You want to take a question?
No.
Okay. So I think they're engaged. I think they're definitely going to consider what it is that we tell them. A full report will have more of the data, so I think it'll make the conclusions and the recommendations stronger. So this preliminary step, I think, was helpful, but it'll be good to get them something with more meat on the bones. And that's what we're working on now.
I noted that you asked whether they wanted a deeper dive. Is that something do they want you to come back in and do more delving?
My guess is some of them do, and others maybe. It's hard to say. I don't know. There were specific things we requested of them that we did not get, that I don't know that we'll ever get. The main one would be data on their applicants, who's actually applying. That we did not get. I don't know that we ever would. That would be one of the main, in terms of a deeper dive, that would be one of the main things. So it hasn't been precluded as a possibility, but I don't know if anything like that will happen in the future.
Having done the pilot, do you, of course, my sense is, can we do the fire department? But beyond that, which sort of is clear over here, do you have a sense that this is worth the time and effort doing elsewhere within the city? And if so, where would you suggest?
Just trying to provide a verbal disruption there.
I'm sorry.
But the second half of the question, I think you can still answer. Oh, the first half in terms of the value added in this.
So it'll only be as valuable as the agency wants it to be. And we have no leverage. We can't make them do this. So on our end, we can do any agency that wants to do it and that is willing to participate actively. We can do any of them, as complicated as the fire department or as small as something like the Civil Service Commission. We could do it for any of them. The key thing is because there's no mandate for them to do so, they have to buy into it. And so on our end, that's the primary operational difficulty. There's other difficulties too. There's new methods that we've done, there's scheduling and logistics that make it hard, but not impossible. But the main issue is, does the agency want to participate in it? If they do, we can do it. And me speaking personally, and as somebody who's working at the EEPC, I found it valuable myself. I learned a lot more about the inner workings of city government than I knew before. It will help me in my future research projects and local law 13 reports and all of that. We're doing our best to make recommendations to the agency that are helpful and honest, but also practicable. And time will tell if it turns out to actually be helpful to them. I hope so, but I can't say for sure.
And
Yeah,
if
other
I
comments, yeah.
could address the question of value added. I just want to note that there is so much more that we can do and really should do to get a fuller picture. I believe that what we've done is just one aspect of what there should be at least the other part of that, which would be the HR part of that. Not just the employees, but also how the agency is handling its HR work, which we haven't done. And that is something that perhaps conversation should be held with the agency head to see if that's something that they would want to do.
Commissioner Reese?
How did you get to the particular commission? What was the entrance or how did you how did they become supportive of your beginning this pilot program? And is there some learning in there as to who else might be interested in it, as if we believe it to be of value? How else can we seek out who else we can seek?
I think and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think the public record on this was that the EEPC commissioners gave guidance that it would be prudent to select a larger agency, right? There was 2 commissioners in particular who identified a possible pilot in this public meeting for a variety of reasons. And it was one of those things where we went with kind of like where prior relationships had existed and where there was a willingness to participate. So those were kind of the.
So is there a likely second?
There may be. It did, I think folks are still teasing through, and that's what this agenda topic is in terms of it takes a lot of work and in terms of the impact and the meeting was very substantive, very, fruitful in many ways, but I guess the verdict is still out in terms of us ongoing, discussions to see what really changes about it. I do think that the EPC, just in general, like never underestimate any agency desire to be compared to any other metric or agency or citywide number in a favorable light, right? Let's just put that out there. Secondly, don't underestimate, the power of a good visual as a heuristic, right? So there was one visual where, and this is something that we could probably just do in general, right? Incorporate it into our routine of research, but, there's a citywide retention average, right? And then there's agencies that fall below or above that. Mm-hmm. And whether you're a white employee, Black employee, Asian, Latino, woman, there's a value for the city to retain someone who's already been hired. For a variety of reasons.
And train.
Train, onboard, and hire is very expensive proposition. So to be able to identify which agencies fall below and above that, and then do something around that is very powerful. To be able to further identify the intersectionality of that in terms of to what extent are agencies able to better or not retain, let's say, Black women, right? Same chart, but like diving deeper demographically could also be very powerful. And it just makes people have a conversation of, wow, I kind of don't want to be below that citywide line, or I'm happy I'm above, but what can, so I thought that is very fruitful. So, I'm always geared toward whatever we can do to create like those kind of infographics or those kind of illustrations, and then look at the areas where we can move the needle of low performers, if you will, or performers in quotes. I think is an area that we could pursue further. Again, it takes a lot. I don't underestimate the level of research, the level of time on task, and follow up and leadership on this. But with increased personnel that's being hired and with everybody's interest in this, I think we can make it happen. But again, we want to have a little bit further evaluation assessment from the team that did it and from the folks who participated.
I think
Commissioner Alcantara?
I was going to say that I agree that we don't have any enforcement way to do with the report. But we created the awareness to them. And at the end of the day, we're going to know if they did it or not. Because if we follow in this report a few years from now, then we see where the needle moves. And we have now a baseline to say this is where they were. We did a study, I don't know, 5 years later, let's see if that made a difference. Because at the end of the day, I believe it's the leadership that will have to act on those things. And sometimes the leadership has no clue that they have an issue. And by creating reports like this, it's always nice to know not only I have issues, but these are the ones that I should focus on.
And also, if I don't know, before you answer that, you are also what we've learned. I'm curious to really learn more about what we've learned about this process and about their responses, how they understood this. Because I think that some aha moments were going off in terms of our own minds in the meeting. They had a lot of aha moments.
Yeah.
We as well.
Yeah. And then I can answer all the questions.
Because I think one fits in a different question. And that has to do with, you have a lot on your plate anyway, but I assume that this is somewhat of a diversion. And because you're digging deep, it's not just looking at numbers and data, but actually seeing how they work within a real life situation. And so how eager are you to continue to do this on your plate?
So all of those questions, in terms of ongoing and tracking it, the early indications is that yes, there will be some level of cooperation to track this in the upcoming years. I can't speak to all the details. It's not like we've ironed out exactly what that would mean, but we've already had those conversations and there will likely be something. Exactly how that looks, I can't say. In terms of lessons learned for us, I think for our team who had not done a lot of what we call qualitative work a lot, I think it was a big learning curve, both in terms of doing it. And that work, at least in my opinion, tends to be more labor intensive than when you're looking at a spreadsheet. That varies, but doing interviews and focus groups is very time intensive. That being said, literally, we found it fun. It's nice to go out and engage as opposed to looking at a spreadsheet all day. So there's definitely a desire and a capability to do more of this moving forward. How much is hard to say. The main issue was time, and there were certainly some hiccups on our ends that led to this taking more time than it should have, but also in terms of the agency, in terms of getting recruits on board and approving surveys and this and that. So in terms of moving forward logistically in the future, we would have to try to create more of a strict timeline with the agency to say that we need this done within this couple of months and this done within this couple of months and so on and so forth. And I we certainly did that with this agency in terms of trying to build trust and such, but there's obviously always these kinds of issues that come in. But yeah, I think we learned a lot that will inform the future studies and is forming some impression of the city's workforce that I think will help us in terms of future projects. We don't want to assume too much because this is just one agency, but there's definitely some insights about the workforce and the problems and good things that the personnel face that I think will help us when we do future interviews and surveys that we'll be asking about in the future. So one example would be, I thought pay would be a bigger issue than it was. Not that it's not. They all want to make more. Who doesn't? But the prioritizing of that compared to the value of their work and the type of work that they're doing, that was something that surprised me a bit. Some of the details of the civil service system, because this is personally my first job in city government, but the way that it actually works in practice. And to be perfectly frank, the perception that some people have that it is subverted, the spirit of it is subverted, not to say that it actually is or not. We're not here as lawyers to determine that, but the perception of personnel that the system is often subverted to achieve particular outcomes seems like that might be something that's fairly prevalent. But again, I don't want to assume that just based on one agency.
Thank you. Next, we have, if no further discussion, we do have further discussion. Commissioner Hewitt?
Okay, no real discussion, but I do know a company that does do the like focus group type research. So I did hear Russell refer to time, etc. But and they've actually worked with city agencies before, so they're very familiar, with just the dynamics and the inner workings and civil service. So if that is something we wanted to do and the staff didn't necessarily have the capacity, I do know of an organization that does that work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next we have, we stay with Russell for the status of the local law 13 report.
We are working with Jean to finalize the current draft and would hope to get one to you, the commissioners, within a week or two for next year.
Thank you. Final order here
Is that for discussion in December? When is the local law 13 due in January?
It's due February 15th.
February.
Yeah.
So we should be prepared to approve it in December, based on our meetings.
There's no January.
Well, so the review process in the past has been, the department write it, we give it to Jean, get it back, give it to DCAS, get it back and give it to you. This year, Jean asked to change it and you will be getting the draft before DCAS. But yes, you should have a draft well before the December meeting, barring some unforeseen issue.
I'm just trying to understand.
and I found DCAS's feedback the last term where I found it not even a mix, but I found it very, very thoughtful, very comprehensive, very thoughtful. It was good to have that eye on. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn public session for the purpose of going into executive session? We have a motion from Commissioner Reese. We have a second from Commissioner Alcantara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions, hearing none. Now, our public session, WebExcast or however we're casting, should be paused or concluded.